to all of you faithful viewers of Equinoxe television. It's 6 p.m. in Kumba in the southwest region, and it's time for the news. We thank you for joining us tonight. Our major stories this evening: the Cameroon Renaissance Movement petitions the Constitutional Council of Cameroon to revert or come back to the presidential decree extending the mandate of municipal councillors. Professor Maurice Kamto insists on the necessity for the country's constitution and other laws to be respected to the latter. We explain more about that petition in this news edition. And at least one person died in the story building which collapsed in the Bepanda neighborhood of Douala. This comes to put to question the quality of construction material and how solid buildings stand as the rainy season intensifies or begins. And also, the Holy Father Pope Leo XIV appoints Monsignor Paul Nyaga, the present Secretary General of the National Episcopal Conference, as the Apostolic Administrator of the Diocese of Edeya. His appointment comes as Bishop Jambos Kontep retires. Viewers, those are our lead stories. Details and more when we come back. Welcome back, viewers. Thank you for always being with us. Thank you for your usual confidence. We begin on a rather sad note. One person finally died after a story building collapsed that was in the Bepanda neighborhood of the Douala 5 subdivision. The incident happened that was last night, and search continues until the corpse was retrieved. The corpse was that of the lone worker who was trapped in that collapsed building. His corpse was retrieved that was at about 3 a.m. today. Cedric Chakutu has more.
These are the remains of the three-story building that collapsed and claimed the life of one individual and injured 3 others on Wednesday afternoon at Bepanda in the Douala 5 subdivision. According to eyewitnesses, the victim, a construction worker believed to be about 20 years old, was pulled from the rubble at around 3 a.m. on Thursday after he was trapped for nearly 12 hours.
Quand la population a cherché à sauver quand les sapeurs sont arrivés, ils ont dit on le laisse faire le travail. La population a dit que non, on peut essayer, nous tous. The
eyewitness adds that the trapped worker reportedly answered a phone call confirming that he was still alive beneath the debris. However, contact was lost moments later and rescuers were unable to reach him on time.
Oui, on l'a appelé, franchement, il décrochait le téléphone. Alors la population pouvait faire ce qui était mieux.
For now, circulation which was disrupted is now arranged as investigations are ongoing.
And still in the Douala 5 subdivision, this time around at the Peka-17 neighborhood, where tension has been escalating somehow, where a decade-long dispute over an approximately 76 hectares of land has resurfaced, bringing together hundreds of purchasers or buyers, indigenous residents and rival claimants into a renewed struggle over ownership rights of the said piece of land, with competing claims, conflicting administrative decisions and court rulings fueling the controversy. Authorities have stepped in to contain the situation. Innocent Aze tells us more.
A major land dispute spanning about 76 hectares in Peka-17, Logbeso in Douala 5 has drawn renewed attention, and more than 100 alerts to legitimate purchasers, long-term residents and indigenous representatives clash over ownership claims, administrative decisions and court rulings. At the center of the controversy,
Madame Jo a eu ce terrain sans aucun problème.
Land purchasers say the legally acquired plots from Clearinjo Bekombe Mateke, whom they identify as the owner of the entire estate covering the disputed hectares of land under a land title dating back to 1997.
C'est un titre foncier vieux depuis 1997.
They now face repeated administrative suspensions and fresh attempts to reprocess or re-register the same land.
Nous faisons face à une succession de suspensions.
Ngoa Moise says the crisis has lasted nearly 2 decades and has left hundreds in uncertainty despite judicial rulings.
D'acquéreurs de bonne foi, on est bloqué. C'est le MINCAF qui nous met dans les problèmes.
He insists that even a Supreme Court ruling in favor of the original title holder has not resolved the dispute, leaving hundreds of alleged legitimate purchasers in prolonged legal limbo.
Le MINCAF lève donc la suspension et balance le titre foncier 26419 sur le domaine privé de l'État.
For many purchasers gathered on site, the situation has turned into years of tension, intimidation, and insecurity.
Since 2015, I tried to build my house here that is behind me. But every day, no peace. There are many people who pass with a cutlass, a stick, plant something to eat. They come and cut it and say that you will go back to your village.
They allege that plots have been resold multiple times and that some occupants have faced threats and attacks amidst competing claims.
Ils ont pris le dessus sur nous à cause des machettes et la force.
The purchasers further claim that the rival group challenging ownership of the land is led by a certain Mr. Mbassi.
Motivé par Mbassi. Ils se sont rebellés.
They allege that the opposing camp has itself fragmented into several factions, resulting in competing claims and further complicating efforts to resolve the dispute.
Je les ai dit, vous n'aurez jamais gain de cause, quel qu'en soit votre état.
Make the minister take the decision of the court and make you have peace.
The purchasers also accuse members of the opposing camp of disregarding an injunction issued by the governor of the Littoral region, ordering a halt to construction activities on the disputed site.
They are the one who do, but they still here, night daytime. They say plot to 3 people, they tell them to build in the night. In the night, people build that fence there, over there. They build it in the night.
But indigenous community representatives tell a different story.
La question que nous nous posons maintenant, c'est de savoir pourquoi les deux se bagarrent sur nos terres.
DJ says all we want is peace.
Tout ce que nous demandons, c'est qu'ils partent d'ici, qu'ils nous laissent tranquilles.
Faced with escalating tensions, the representative of the divisional officer of Douala 5, accompanied by a consultative commission, has since visited the disputed site. Following a meeting with representatives, the mission seeks to assess the situation on the ground and identify possible avenues for resolving one of the area's most complex and long-running land disputes.
In politics, the new legal battle is unfolding over the future of local governance. In Cameroon, opposition leader Professor Maurice Kamto petitions the Constitutional Council to overturn or come back to the presidential decree extending the mandates of municipal councillors. He argues that their terms have already expired and that fresh elections should be organized without any delay. The move raises important constitutional and political questions ahead of the country's next electoral cycle. Babila Jonathan reports.
The debate over local governance in Cameroon has taken a new legal turn as opposition leader Maurice Kamto challenges the extension of municipal councillors' mandate before the Constitutional Council. The president of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, CRM political party, has formally requested the withdrawal of Presidential Decree number 2026/166, which extends the tenure of municipal councillors elected in 2020 until February 28, 2027. According to Professor Maurice Kamto, the mandate of the councillors legally expired on May 31, 2026. He argues that all municipal councils across the country are now operating in what he describes as a legal vacancy, rendering any decision or deliberation taken after that date unlawful. In his petition, the opposition leader says the executive branch has exceeded its constitutional authority by extending the mandate without electoral consultation. He further argues that the measure encroaches into the powers of Parliament, undermines the sovereignty of the people, and violates the constitutional principle of non-retroactivity of laws. Professor Kamto is now calling on the Constitutional Council to annul the decree and compel the head of state to convene the electorate without delay for fresh municipal elections. The case has reignited debate over electoral governance and constitutional compliance as the nation awaits the Constitutional Council's response.
And now let's talk about frequent blackouts in Cameroon lately. A sudden 40% drop in electricity supply has triggered a blackout across Cameroon's littoral and west regions. Lately, several people have been left in total darkness, plunging local businesses into immediate financial chaos. And the business people especially say the situation is now more than a nightmare. Laura Mayeru spoke with some of them, and she puts together this report for the news.
The root cause of this blackout is a severe financial deadlock, as revealed in the official ministerial note. The energy producer, Goblet, has shut down its turbines due to the frozen bank accounts. Goblet blames the distributors, Eneo Local referred to alongside Socaldel, for chronic non-payment. In turn, the distributor points out the finger right back to unpaid government subsidies. But while public corporations debate over frozen assets, consumers are left in the dark, indifferent to the corporate blame game. They simply need power to survive.
On parvient pas à travailler.
We are unable to work. We come here and all the machines are off. A zone like this, we constantly need energy. Operating charges and fixed costs are now soaring for above their actual revenues, threatening hundreds of small businesses with bankruptcy.
J'ai des employés, ils ne peuvent pas arriver parce qu'il n'y a rien à faire. On ne peut pas travailler sans lumière. Vous comprenez pourquoi je suis autant courroucé. On n'arrive pas à travailler.
I have employees, but they cannot be there because there is nothing to do. We can't work without light. That's the machine behind. I get only one t-shirt.
On peut rien. On peut rien. Et les impôts sont derrière nous. Et le bailleur est derrière nous. Et on doit payer les salaires. C'est pas évident. Vraiment pas évident.
In a desperate response, the Minister of Water Resources and Energy, Gaston Elundwe-Sumba, has initiated emergency talk with the Ministry of Finance. They are seeking for a way to lift the bank freezes, stabilize the southern interconnected grid, and restore vital economic activity. Yet, as long as the turbine remains idle, the financial deficit grows largely by the hours. Generally, we have alternatives. When we don't respect the deadline, we are forced to look for generators, which is more costly. Once again, the vulnerable workforce is left alone to absorb the heavy cost of crisis they did not create.
We will be talking with a civil society actor who is also a victim of frequent power cuts in the second part of the news. Now let's talk religion. The Holy Father Pope Leo XIV today appointed Monsignor Paul Nyaga as the Apostolic Administrator of the Diocese of Edea, following the acceptance of the resignation of Bishop Jean Bosco Ntep. The appointment was announced in a communique issued by the Apostolic Nuncio to Cameroon and Equatorial Guinea. That was today, June 4. And before his appointments today, Monsignor Paul Nyaga was the Secretary General of the National Episcopal Conference of Cameroon. Immaculate Fogui tells us more.
The Catholic Church in Cameroon is witnessing a change in leadership in the Diocese of Edea following a decision by the Holy See. In a communique issued on June 4th by the Apostolic Nuncio in Cameroon, Pope Leo XIV accepted the resignation of Bishop Jean Ntep from the pastoral governance of the Diocese of Edea. The decision was taken in accordance with Canon 401, paragraph 1 of the Code of Canon Law, which provides for the resignation of bishops who have reached the prescribed age or are unable to continue carrying out their duties. To ensure the continuity of the administration of the diocese, the Vatican has appointed Monsignor Paul Nyaga as Apostolic Administrator. Born in 1959, Monsignor Paul Nyaga has served as Secretary General of the National Episcopal Conference since April 2024. The appointment was announced this Thursday, June 4th, during the 51st Ordinary Plenary Assembly of Bishops of Cameroon in Yaoundé. Prior to this appointment, he had served as Vicar General of the Archdiocese of Douala.
Congratulations, His Lordship. And now let's talk sports. The 2025 FIFA World Cup will be played under new rules aimed at cutting time wasting. Somehow, the International Football Association Board, IFAB, has also handed small power to the VAR, the Video Assistant Referee. Discipline is tougher too as we speak. Our reporter, Swandikan Gabriel, has more.
As teams begin arriving in USA, Mexico and Canada for the FIFA World Cup, the World Football Governing Body has validated some 6 rules aimed at more football and less time wasting. The new International Football Association Board, IFAB laws, now put the clock on deliberate delays. A throw-in or goal kick must be taken within 5 seconds, or it can be turned over to the opposition. For goal kicks, wasting time could even result in a corner for the other team. Substitutions are also faster. Players leaving the pitch now have just 10 seconds to exit at the nearest point. Fail to do so, and your replacement must wait at least 1 minute while your team plays with 10 men. Players receiving treatment must stay off the field for 60 seconds, except for goalkeepers or if the opponent is booked or sent off. Discipline is stricter too. Covering your mouth during a confrontation can now earn a straight red card. VAR gets new powers as well. Corners can be checked for accuracy before the restart, and second yellow card can be reviewed. But referees will not review potential second yellow cards that weren't given. There is also the introduction of the referee's camera that the referee will carry on his chest.
Thanks, Matt. And that sports report brings us to the end of the first part of the news. Let's now move on to talking points, viewers. In the second part of the news, we are talking with a civil society actor who also doubles as an economist and also a victim of epileptic power supply in Cameroon, just like other Cameroonians. He is based in Douala. Thank you, Song Derek, for accepting to be our guest on the news tonight. Recently, the electricity distribution company changed appellation or its name from Eneo, the energy of Cameroon, to Socadel. Eneo, we know, Derek, was a parastatal, while management of Socadel has been entrusted to the state of Cameroon. Looking at the management strategies of public structures in the country, Song Derek, do you think that decision was well thought over?
Well, I would tell you that there is no direct link. Productivity comes from a system, not branding. When you want to measure productivity, you measure productivity in the field. And what does electricity company produce? Their service is light. So if you want to measure how productive they are, you have to measure the availability of light in the cities, the availability of light in all the nooks and crannies in the country. When you change a name, it doesn't change a system. When you change a name, it doesn't change inefficiency that operates in the previous name or at efficiency that should operate in the new name. So, I do believe that when you want to measure productivity, you measure productivity based on availability and efficiency. We cannot have a country that keeps changing names of companies and what we expect at change does not come. I think where we are, we need a system that works, especially at a time when Cameroon keeps announcing the construction of dams in the north, in the south, and everywhere in the country. You cannot have dams constructed everywhere and you have shortage of electricity everywhere. The correlation doesn't match, and the change of the name doesn't in any way reflect productivity. If Sokadel wants to be productive, then Cameroonians in Bojongo, Cameroonians in Ndokoti, Cameroonians in Yagwa, Cameroonians in Bisorobaliwe, Cameroonians in Kwakwa, and Cameroonians in Fundong should be able to have electricity without complaints. It is not the name that changes the situation. It is its availability. It is its presence that makes the citizens satisfied.
You were already talking about productivity, Derek. How can we, when I talk of we, I mean authorities in Cameroon, ever think that changing names mean changing or improving productivity? Do you think this is a coincidence or just another scheme to confuse the masses and keep them silent, at least for a while?
Well, I want to say that changing the name from Enio to Sokadel does not in any way fix the problem of Cameroonians. It's a structural change, it's a nomenclature change, but the electricity epileptic nature is still there. You should bear with me that we have had a lot of changes in name from AES to Enio and now to Sokadel. But the supply of electricity is epileptic everywhere. So, what we need as change is constant supply of electricity. If you care, the name of Sokadel changes tomorrow to Everlight, and we're in darkness, it doesn't help anybody if the name is Everlight and we're in darkness. Remember, the actual thing that Cameroonians need, especially in public companies, like you've stated, is that there is absence of accountability, there is absence of transparency, and there is absence of efficiency. Once these factors are there, that we can measure the productivity of these companies, and then the citizens can attest that electricity company gives them electricity and water company gives them water, Cameroonians will not be questioning. So the naming has nothing to do if the living situation of the citizens remain the same. We must and we should know that when you call a name and the people are suffering, the name changes nothing. Where we are, Cameroonians, especially at a time when they are expecting to emerge in 2035, cannot be talking about basic necessities like electricity, where industrialization needs to groom and to grow.
Pertinent, Derek. Now, NAO or defunct NAO officials earlier said that the company had many lapses or faced several challenges because of huge debts it had incurred. Some public or government structures who could not regulate their NAO bills of hundreds of millions of francs CFA were told, should the government not begin by being rigorous with its own structures if for real it cares about Cameroonians being provided with constant electricity supply?
In the affirmative, yes, the government must start with itself. There is no way you can talk of transparency, you can talk about efficiency when public structures in themselves are not efficient, when they are not accountable. State companies or state institutions seems to be the highest defaulters when it comes to payment of electricity. And most often, the pressure goes back to the local citizens. The pressure goes back to you and I. You cannot be a state, you consume electricity and you don't pay, and then citizens suffer for your negligence. It should have been a continuation, because what is happening is a moral contradiction. Government asks citizens to pay bills, and at the same time, they don't enforce discipline internally. How do citizens pay peacefully or pay when they know that state institutions owe such amounts? And when the individuals don't pay, the company shrinks. The company is suffering from financial quagmire, and those who are to suffer the consequences are the innocent citizens who are paying their bills. And why does this happen? We know that in Cameroon, one of our greatest problems is a problem of transparency. The government is not transparent. The state companies are not transparent. Accountability. There is almost zero accountability. And there is a lot of embezzlement and siphoning of state funds. Whereas those who are supposed to do the checks and balances, where is Operation Sparrowhawk? Where is Konak? They are somewhere, and they can only nail you down if you are against the state. Whereas it was to be their place to act why state-owned institutions are unable to settle basic utilities. If they don't pay, who should pay? If they don't pay, how should the electricity supply company pay its subcontractors or pay its workers? And if they don't pay their workers, how can their workers be in the field to make sure that there is constant electricity supply for our day-to-day activities to go on? It's a sad one.
Thank you, Derek. Now, at this moment, from your explanation, which has been really coherent, it might seem we are only going further down the drain. With all the economic and social consequences insufficient power supply comes with, Cameroonians now think relying on other sources of energy can be a temporary solution, though not also very affordable and even available. How do you think it's possible for us to come out of this impasse soonest?
Yeah, we equally need to fix financial discipline immediately, especially in our public-owned enterprises and across all sectors. And with Socadel, we need to gear towards performance-based management, because at this time, we need to set our KPIs, key performance indicators, straight. And these key performance indicators should be geared towards making the citizens of this country better. And the public-private sector collaboration needs to improve if we all want to work as one to make this country a better one. There must be honest communication and a willingness to make the dream work. If not, we're going to be circulating in circles.
That's right, Song Derek. We need to make it work, else we stand on the same spot for several years or going round like in a circle. Thank you, Song Derek, for accepting to be our guest to participate on the news tonight. And viewers, we thank you so much for always being with us. Thank you for your usual confidence. And that was what we put together for you this evening on the news in the English language. More would be yours at 8 p.m. with Julien Beth Bissai. Meantime, Equinoxe comes up at 7 p.m. with Serge Alain. As for myself and the team, we will be together again tomorrow, same time, God willing. For now, bye-bye from us.